All right, this video is gonna be inside the Steez CT SV TW. Now what I mean by that, I'm just gonna break it apart. I'm gonna show you guys the gears, what makes that the clicking drag go, what makes that happen, and also just to see if there's any sort of major internal differences Daiwa did with this Steez versus the other Steez reels that they have. Make sure you comment below if you want to see anything else. Also subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'm going to be extensively using this Steez coming up. The ice is almost off the lake, so this reel is going to be getting a lot of use. Alright, to break this down, this does have hex bolts right here. I don't know if you can see that. So I have an Allen wrench or hex wrench, however you call it. Screwdriver for the side plate here. 10mm socket for the bolt there. And then just a small screwdriver just in case I have to pry any sort of parts open or anything like that. So my first order of business is going to be taking off this handle. I generally like to put a finger next to it so it doesn't slide off. What I do, I put all my parts starting in the upper left and just going across. And I kind of break it down by section. So what I do is I have like the handle / drag star section, and then when I get to the internals I'll put the gears in one part and the clutch in another area, just to keep myself organized so I'm not forgetting. If you're inexperienced with reels, I suggest taking pictures along the way, and also have the PDF. Like if you go online you can find the PDF for a lot of reels for the schematics, or they're generally inside your box as well. So take that off. Now this is spring loaded, by the way, so make sure you're keeping pressure on that drag star. Last thing you want to do is crawling around on your hands and knees looking for parts. Your little spring here. You got this plastic nut that comes off. Pretty basic so far. I know a lot of Daiwas, they don't have that spring-loaded drag star, but it looks like that's kind of the direction they're going in. There's two washers inside here, and I'll go over that later. Oh, and there's a washer right there that goes on top of the bearing. And that is the first part of what I do. Next part, I should take the spool out. Side plate over there. Now there's 1, 2, 3. Looks like there's 3 that hold. Oh, that's nice. Look at that. There's a little hole there. You can slide the hex wrench right in. So with the first one, you can do it pretty easily. Make sure this is the right size. Oh, there we go. Now it's kind of odd that they went with the hex bolt instead of your standard either Phillips or standard, but it's more points of contact, so you can actually you're not going to strip out as much. So at this point I hold the side plate in my hand like this, put pressure, because there's 2 springs in there you do not want to lose. If you do end up losing them and they shoot across the room, what you can do is you put a dryer sheet, like a fabric softener sheet, on the end of a vacuum hose, like with a rubber band. That way it acts as almost like a really fine filter, so you can just vacuum up on your floor, and you end up, a lot of times I find the pieces I drop doing it that way. It's a lot faster than on your hands and knees looking for parts. I used to live in an apartment that had a shag rug, and that rug definitely liked to swallow parts up for sure. I think it's almost out. It's like right there. Oh, that's so close. This last one, it's always the last one that gives you trouble. Come on. There we go. So now carefully lift this up. Yep, that's the last of it. Okay. Carefully lift up. Okay, both of those springs are there. Both the yoke springs. There's nothing else that's going to come out. So, interestingly enough, let me pick this up. I don't like to rotate the gears much without the frame being on. Just because the gears, they're so precisionally aligned that if you're just rotating it like this, the gears can be out of line and rub on each other. I'm not seeing, that's pretty standard in here. I'll get to the braking part, the drag. Pretty standard in how the clutch works. And you get the two yoke springs here, which I'll take off right now. Yeah, nothing too fancy with this, all this. Now, what I'm really interested in is how this clicking drag works. So how Shimano's works is they have a washer, like it's like a plastic washer that goes down and has ridges all along the inside facing down. And in the gear, there's like a little drilled out part right here that has a spring-loaded pin in there, and that's what rubs to make the clicking sound. I don't see that happening here. I'm kind of curious. I see something right there. I don't know if you can see that right here. I'm trying to pop this open. Oh, I don't know if there's any loose pieces, so let's see. Oh, there's that little pin thing I was talking about. Drag. Oh, I see. Okay. So this little pin here is spring loaded. I don't know if you can see that right there. And what that does is rubs along the inside of this plastic case that it has. So all those little ridges, it rubs on there, and that's how it goes. Brrr. It's pretty neat. It's a little bit more intricate than Shimano's, but essentially it's the same thing. Drag in there. The drags seem to work pretty good, so I'm not going to mess with it. I'm going to push that pin in. So what I did, I put my nail there and I pushed this washer down so the pin slid into place. Inside the side plate, nothing fancy at all. I mean, that's for it goes inside your pinion gear. This is a little sleeve for the anti-reverse bearing. Got that bearing that's right here. Yeah, nothing too crazy in the inside. That was kind of cool how that works. So let me look inside here real quick. Yeah, just like how it is on the Zillion SV, how they have it like that. I'm not going to mess with anything. It felt really smooth out of the box, and it looks like it has enough lube on it. I'll probably break it apart about halfway through this season, and those gears might be able to use a little bit of lube. I'm not going to bore you guys with me doing that right now. Actually, they're pretty good, actually, looking at them. So what I'm going to do is put this yoke back together. There's like slides on each part. Just put that part down. Slide her in like that. Oop. I like to do this part first because you're not smashing the gears into each other as much. Now that's all the way down. Those two springs that like to jump off. Grab them. Move that gear out of the way. Sometimes I'll put a little dab of grease too if they like to get squirrely. Now hold the washer down, you don't want any parts flying off. Okay. Now that is everything that goes on the inside. So now I'm going to put this back together. And don't be concerned with that bearing, you can pop that back in. One thing I guess you should look for is sometimes these anti-reverse bearing sleeves are keyed to fit inside the top washer. This one is not, so you don't have to be as careful about it. And then you line that stuff up. Slide her back into place. Alright, everything seems to fit without much resistance. Pop this bearing back in there. And I push down and I spin it just a couple times to make sure that anti-reverse bearing sleeves all the way down. So now when I'm still holding tension on there, I want to put these bolts back in. You let go of that, those yoke springs can move out. You can damage your gears by them smashing together. And you speed along, do this. Got one on there. I'm still going to hold it because that back end's going to want to move. Get the other one in there and get it started. It's all the way on there, almost there. Alright, now it's safe to let go. And this last one I think might be a little difficult to get. Oh, there, I got it first time in there. This little handy dandy hole right there, that makes maintenance a little easier. There we go. It's actually nice, it holds your wrench pretty good. Alright, so that's that part. Now putting this back in. Make sure your bearing's all the way down. That thin little washer generally always goes on first. I say generally because most reels always has a washer right here. There we go, that's all the way down. Now it's going to be this thing right here. I'll show you real quick. There's going to be two washers inside there. It doesn't matter which way they go as long as they are opposite. So there's a little gap when they get pushed together, whether it's like that or like that, doesn't matter. It's almost like two Pringles. If you have two Pringles and you stack them on top of each other, that's the wrong way. If you have the Pringles stacked facing to like make, you know, how people make duck lips and stuff like that, that's how you're going to want to have it. So put them on there. And what that does, that creates tension for your drag. Those are in there. The next thing is this washer. Generally it's like a matte one side, shiny on the other side. Oh, I almost put that in back. I don't know if it really is a right or wrong way, but I always see them like this, so that goes down. Then it's this plastic nut. The part with the cutout in there, that's where the spring goes. And what I do, I hold this. That way your shaft isn't moving around. And I probably should have went over this in the beginning, but if you have a left-handed reel, everything's going to be backwards except for that the bolt that holds the handle in, if it drills into it. Now if it spins onto the shaft here, it's going to be opposite as well. You have your spring. There's no right or wrong way for that. Now what I do with the drag star, I should go over this. So put these points, see like the corners of the square, line it up with the points of like the oval, so that way it fits inside the drag star without having to mess with it too much. There we go, now it's down. Now what I do is hold it like this. Don't forget this thin little washer. Then it goes on your handle. Make sure you hold it on. It's not really that much under tension. It's not going to just fly off. Hold that down. Spin this on it by hand as much as possible. It reduces the wear and tear on the paint down there. And generally what I do, I just give just a little bit to go snug. I'm going to put the spool in Oh, I forgot the spring there. It fell out when I showed you guys. So, pop that off. Alright, so we saw inside the Steez CT SV TW. Pretty basic, nothing fancy, nothing really changed with the frame size at all. Other than that clicking drag, how that works. All that's pretty standard inside. Nothing too maintenance intensive at all. One addition was those hex bolts, which is a pretty good addition at that. So without going on much further, I will be extensively fishing this and come a couple weeks when the lakes open up. I'll also be putting out a bunch of trout videos as well. I'll be doing a lot of BFS trout fishing. So make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell as well so you know when I'm uploading because I upload all of the different times of the day. And also follow me on Instagram. That's going to be your easiest way of seeing when I upload footage. So thanks a lot for watching and stay tuned.